Hey all, this is 012Boku, and I'm coming at you with another review of... Find out, where is it here? Oh yes, here it is. Full Metal Alchemist, the original show. Again, we are back to that, and I'm realizing here, oh yeah, there it is. I guess my camera was leaning over, but again, I have hit this thing a couple times, so apologies about that, gents, and ladies. But let's see here. Yeah, we're doing the next episode, which is, where did I say here? Oh, yes. Be thou for the people. In this episode, you have the Elrics hanging out with Winry in the beginning. You know, they're just having fun. You know, Edward promised to buy her, anything she wanted. I guess the promise from the last episode fulfilled. And I guess going what they went through with Barry the Chopper, who could blame him or her? And she's all ecstatic, being at the central shops, finding all these tools she's never seen before. He's helping her out. Alphonse seems a little more fine to it, like he isn't turned off, he's just having a fun time with her. But Edward is, a little on the train of, he doesn't know how to handle this with her, she doesn't know how to handle it with him. They play it off like, their enthusiasms and kindness, but just with slow words or subtle facial features that they probably think neither one sees. But, Winry notices. I think Edward more than likely noticed. And it just, continues on that, given what they went through with Barry and everything else, about them being in Central and doing what they're doing, it's sticking with the characters pretty hardcore in this one, and pretty just, terrible in some ways that the characters are growing, but they're also like, yeah, we're not going to talk about what happened. No, we're not. But during this, Edward gets a message from Colonel Mustang to say, go out east where we're having some trouble. We heard there's been possible corruption. I want you to check it out. So they get ready to check it out. Winry's ecstatic. They show this in a flashback. She's ecstatic, saying, hey, when are you guys going to come back to Resemble? And Edward's like, we're not coming back. We burned down our home. Alphonse even backs Edward up, saying, this is why they did it. Winry's disappointed, but they go on their way. They head out east. Alphonse wants to talk to Edward about certain things, trying to lighten the mood about when they were on a train. Edward doesn't like it. They get to the town of, I believe it's Usewell copper mine town, or mining town. And the town's deserted, nobody's there until Edward gets smacked in the head with a board, and there's this one kid named Kyle telling his father that there's visitors, and all the people come alive. People in the alleyways are coming alive. The bar, the inn, where all this is at, where the coal miners work, are coming alive. They're happy to have somebody there, but unfortunately for Edward and Alphonse, they're charging huge rates, 200,000 a night to stay at this inn, and they don't have money. So Edward and Alphonse decide to use their alchemy to promise things and to help fix and pay off their debt to the hotel. They start doing this, and the people are actually very warm to this still. They're very happy, good to see that, the things can be fixed, and, they're happy to have alchemists in their town doing good. Edward sadly lets slip that they're a part of the state. You have Hauling, Kyle, everybody else, all the workers there just staring at Edward. They kick Edward out, almost kick Alphonse out, but Alphonse says he has nothing to do with, Edward of the state, or at least Edward says something on Alphonse's behalf. Interestingly enough, the difference between manga and anime here is in the manga, Alphonse goes, no, I'm not a state anything. I'm not a state alchemist. And the anime here, Edward tells them that Alphonse has nothing to do with it, because Alphonse falters, doesn't know what to tell Howling or the other people, but Edward, takes a bullet for him, saying, no, he had nothing to do with me or any of this, so, leave my brother alone. He's got nothing to do with this. So they let Alphonse stay, and Edward's out there hungry. Alphonse eventually brings him some food, and Alphonse asks Kyle, that state alchemists are hated, and Kyle says, they're nothing but bottom feeders who feed off of us and all our goodwill. Then we get, Lieutenant Yoki coming into the scene with, he has a guard, Lyra. Lyra is purely from the anime. She wasn't in the manga, but new character introduced for the anime here. But you have Yoki come in with his two henchmen. Lyra, the alchemist at his command. Lyra is not a state alchemist, but an alchemist who is working for the state, quote unquote. And they come in, berate Hauling, Kyle, the rest of the miners, saying they're going to double tax. Yoki's going to do all these things, and the end, but hey, if you guys want me to back off, you need to pay me, but you're going to have to pay double. All the people try to get at Yoki, but Lyra backs him up, pushing him away with a blast of wind and, I guess, heat power combined into one, because Edward deduces what her power is just like off the bat from seeing it. And Kyle gets upset, throws a rag at Yoki's face. Yoki asks one of his men to basically maim or injure Kyle as an example. Edward comes in, blocks it with his arm. Sorry, I had another brain fart there. Oh, yes, because I have it written down here. Yoki sees that Edward has the pocket watch and he's a state alchemist. He basically invites Edward to stay at his mansion. He's got this huge mansion, white mansion on top of the hill. They're coming in, having a nice steak dinner. Edward takes notice of how Yoki has all these nice things and says, you have all this nice stuff. And Yoki's like, yes, it's hard collecting things from taxes. And taxes have been slow, but, if you could have a contribution. And throughout this whole conversation, you have Edward and Yoki having two differences of opinion of what it means to care for people, what it means to make their way in the world, to gain acceptance, power, all these things. Yoki is skewed with greed. Edward, is not really saying much, but it's written in his face, written in how the voice actors, portray it, and it's there that they're two different people with two different opinions. Yoki is, tries to bribe Edward. Edward, I don't think we see him accept it, but the bag just disappears, and there's this stuff on the side. But all of a sudden, Yoki, near the end of the scene, says, don't worry, these miners will be dealt with. This minor annoyance won't interrupt the mine inspection you're about to do. And then you have Lyra using her wind and flame power to knock down the inn. Alphonse protects Kyle, who was still there in the building with him, from harm. You have Hauling and his family freaking out, and the men are trying to help Hauling back, but again, Alphonse helped protect Kyle. You also have Edward come down to investigate, and, he asks Alphonse, is this, Yoki's doing? And he's like, it was. Kyle asks and demands, basically, demands that Edward fix their home. Can he do it? And then Edward's like, I can't do it. It's not that simple. Plus, if I did anything like create gold or help you guys out, it would just be taken in taxes. I could go to prison, lose my state certification. And Kyle just loses it at this point, saying that, you're greedy, you don't understand, this is our home, blah, 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 how could you, you're no better than Yoki. And then Edward poses a very good question, saying, if it's this bad here, why don't you guys just pack up and leave, find another town, resume your business elsewhere. And Hauling just looks straight at Edward with all the other miners looking at him, and he's like, kid, I don't expect you to understand, but this place is our home as well as our graves. And Edward, I think, with that little notion, understands what this is all about to the miners, what this really all is, and it strikes a chord with him that he uses alchemy and equivalent exchange to play a trick on Yoki. He goes to a boxcar mine full of coal, and he takes a few coins, jingles it on the coal, transforms the coal into gold bars to give to Yoki, to where Yoki looks at this and sees, holy crap, there's a lot here. He's hesitant because Edward says, can you give up the mine rights to the mine? I want to buy it for you with all these gold bars. We'll call it a even transaction, equivalent exchange, blah, blah, blah. And then Yoki's hesitant, but eventually goes for it, signs it over to Edward. Edward goes back to the people, uses the signed deed from Yoki to sort of dangle it in front of him and tease them. And he's like, well, I don't know. I could give this up for, 200,000, which is a nice, a night's stay in your inn and hotel. And, you have Hauling agree to this grinning like an idiot, understanding what Edward was doing. And Kyle goes, well, how can we put you in our hotel? It was destroyed. And Edward's like, oh, what's that over there? And the hotel was fixed. You have Yoki come out, coming, at Edward and Alphonse saying, those gold bars you gave me turned to chunks. Don't swindle me. What's going on here? And Edward's like, oh, well, I didn't do anything. That would be illegal. Plus, you gave the mine to me free of charge, and then Yoki's losing it. Has Lyra try to attack Edward. Edward instantly, defeats, well, not instantly, there's a little bit of back and forth, but he basically single-handedly defeats Lyra, He also says to Lyra, why are you doing this? Because, I didn't sell my soul to the state, you don't have to either. And she's like, well, all we have is the state, how could you turn against what you're in service of? And, he defeats her, and, he's just looking at her, longingly, just wondering what's going on. And also, Lyra just, looks at him, and I think she got it at the end, what Edward was looking at, because she's, disappointed in herself and disappointed in what just took place. The townspeople also beat the crap out of Yogi and his men. Here, there's a scream. And there's also a point to where General Hakuro in the show visits, Lieutenant Hawk. Well, I don't think she's lieutenant yet, but I think she's, she's second Lieutenant Hawkeye. She becomes first lieutenant, and then you have Major Mustang move up to Colonel through General Hakuro's orders. And Hakuro, I believe, knew of Yoki's corruption and was actually happy that Mustang was taking care of it. So it's like the transaction that they knew what was going on, but they couldn't prove it. And the Elrics are, proving to be very capable for the state and to do good things instead of just greed. You also have a time skip after the whole thing with you as well, where it's been 2 years. Edward is now, Edward is now 15. You have Alphonse at 14. And, they've gotten older. They're driving with the car. The driver's talking about the tales of Edward Elric, an alchemist who's really for the people, calls him short. Edward freaks out and, the car crashes. And, he chases after the driver. While, beforehand, these tales were filling Edward's head just full of, ego and whatnot. But, again, a great episode that, again, was from the manga. Very fun, and I'm glad we see it, because you now see why Yoki has this disdain for the Elrics, given what happens, and it's just a fun episode that plays out. I'll grab that in a minute, I don't really need those notes anymore. The voices, I have to give it to both Edward and Alphonse, Vic Mignogna, Romy Paku, Aaron Dismuke, Rie Kugamiya, just great performances from those two, just really, giving it out, full of emotion, full of just non-belief of the corruption, just really great stuff. Have to also give it to Halling, Chris Rager, Joji Nakata, not Jojo Nakata, Joji Nakata. Great stuff from him, really good, fun stuff, and just tough guy character and an emotional guy when they're going through all the problems of the mine. Let's see, well, no, that's Holling's wife. Where is he? Oh, yes. And I have to give it to Yoki, Barry Yandel, Kazuki Yao. Just a very great, sniveling, conniving, greedy, motherfucker essentially there. And, they play it off very, very well. He's very good at doing that. And both characters do that great in this episode. And overall, it makes the time skip go full circle. The past that Alphonse was telling from episode 1, it was great character development, great stuff. So this is the taste we got to see of the Elrics being in this not so tried and true world of alchemy. So where's it gonna go from here? You guys will see, and to me it only gets better. But just let me know down in the comments section below, and just get back to me with what you got. I'd like to hear what you guys thought about this episode. Did you like this episode? Would you have liked this episode to be in Brotherhood? Just, let me know, and we'll get this discussion going, alright? See you.